Could I have pre-measured this out instead? Yes. Am I going to? No. Marry me and welcome to Plant Based Laughter, where we veganize recipes that we see in the media. So today what we're going to be doing is we're doing Rachel's meat trifle. If you recall from the Twinkie video, we're going to be using that as our pound cake because I just thought it would make things a lot more simpler to just do it all in one. And I will go ahead and let you guys know ahead of time, I'm a little sad with this recipe because the only meat in it is the bacon, and I feel like there's a missed opportunity to truly like lean into like what Rachel did, especially because she uses like ladyfingers. So it could be like an espresso ladyfinger or a whiskey ladyfinger, which the Twinkie, oddly enough, if we made it with whiskey, as you know I didn't, does have that flavoring. So she did still kind of have that, but then there's definitely just so much more that you could have done, because I think you can make like a sweet mashed potato, some candied carrots, and really have like elevated the whole uniqueness of it and use it oranges instead, because I think those go really good and get cooked a lot of times with meat, and apples. Just a really missed opportunity. But either way, I think she did her best for being like she just essentially put together a trifle and put some bacon bits on top, and I still think it's gonna taste really good. So enough of my complaining, let's get started with this recipe. Marry me and welcome. So let's go ahead and get started with candying up our bacon. So I'm gonna be using tempeh bacon for this time. You've probably seen some others. This honestly just kind of really sounded and looked the best when I was shopping for what I would want to crumble and be able to put on top. So it's supposed to still have that smoky bacon flavor. I've never baked tempeh, I've always just pan fried it. So I'm hoping this will go well, but we're gonna go ahead and use her same suggestions. Bake them over a wire rack. Okay. So one thing about tempeh you're probably seeing a little bit is it is super crumbly. So this isn't like a bacon you would want to use for like wrapping around anything. That is the first time I used tempeh. That is what I used it for. And maybe I'll recreate that recipe. It was from, oh my gosh, the whole name just went out of my mind. A Shokugeki or Food Wars. Like one of the first recipes he makes in that is like a bacon wrapped potato, and he uses red wine in it, so maybe I won't be doing it because the red wine vinegar would be a little bit too much vinegar for the purpose of it. But anyways, my point to this being is I tried to use this to wrap around that and it did not go well. All right, and so then we're just gonna take some brown sugar, it says, and put it over the bacon. So this is just what I'm gonna do. I think it's about a 1/4 cup she calls for, which I'm technically have a little bit more bacon on here for, but I'm not gonna be too mad about this. Kind of reminds me of like when you do a dry rub. Maybe that's literally what you're doing. I've never candied bacon. Is it called pig candy, or do you have to grill that for it to be called pig candy? I guess this would be called plant candy. Anyways. I'm trying to just make sure I get it on these little bits. Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead, bake this at 350 for about 20 minutes. I'm gonna check on it because we want it to get crispy, right? In theory, because that's how bacon would normally act. But I also just don't want this to burn. So let's go ahead, put this in the oven, and while that's going, we'll go ahead and get started with making the whipped cream. Marry me again. So we have some coconut cream here. I've whisked it somewhat. I don't have an electric mixer. We all know this. And to make homemade whipped cream, apparently you need that, or just the mentality to push through, which today I don't care enough, so I'm not going to. So let's go ahead and just get started with the next step. So we have our lemon curd. So the video will be linked below. As you can tell, it's very liquidy, which if you watch the video, you will know why. But it still tastes delicious. it's gonna be fine. So could I have pre-measured this out instead? Yes. Am I going to? No. Because for 2 cups she said about 1/3, so this is probably 1.5 cups, so somewhere around I don't know. Let's just see how that looks. Because yeah, and then normally if it was curd you'd actually be able to fold it in. Obviously I can't, so I'm just going more for like a little swirl action. I'm not trying to fully incorporate it, but just gently incorporate it. So I'm gonna call that good for our lemon curd whipped cream concoction, and I'm gonna put it off to the side, and we're gonna get set up for everything else. All right, so I didn't mention this before, I'm just doing it in like a standard glass because I don't have a trifle glass, so, and I'm just one person, so just kind of the same thing as we did for the cold brew, where we were just like, instead of making a whole pitcher, how can we turn this into a party for one? This is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it in the glass, and then we just, since it's just layering, it's still layering within it. So we start off with some cake. Be sure to check out so it calls for pound cake, and I want to make vegan pound cake. Not in addition to like everything else that I just kind of have going on. So I decided to go ahead and use some of the Twinkie, what is it, the 20-year-old Twinkie. So be sure to check that video out. It'll also be linked below. Yeah, and so it goes cake, goes blackberry mint jam, the opposite of man, according to Monica. This will also be, I don't want to do too much, just a nice layer. Linked below. Thanks for being here. So it goes jam, and then this is another reason why I don't think she actually tested out this recipe, because she doesn't call for blackberries, she calls for blueberries. I personally am like picky about blueberries, so I decided to do some blackberries, even with this jam. So I'm not going to do it on all the layers because we have a lot of blackberry, and I have more strawberries to use. But anyways, fresh berries are next. What else? Chaos. Oh, but on her picture, if you go back and see, she has blackberries in the picture and there's no blueberries. And her trifle isn't layered like this either. So it's interesting, the artwork choice. Should I have gotten a spoon for this? Probably, but let's go ahead and add our whipped cream lemon curd concoction next. And so just enough to where it essentially covers the strawberries. Since it's a little bit more liquid, I have no problem with it going all the way down to the, we'll get a side once we're done, and hopefully we'll be able to see the layers. But anyways, you get it. So we're just gonna go ahead and do another layer. I wanted to be able to get at least 2 layers. I think I'm probably gonna be able to get a good 3. So that's exciting. So I'm gonna put both of those in there. We have some more jam. As we've already commented, the bacon just goes on top. I definitely think you could layer the bacon as well. And in fact, that's what I'll do with this layer here. Let's just do one of these. And it's meant to be crumbled, so I'm just, part of the reason why I wanted to use the tempeh is because it crumbles so easily. And we're just doing like a little bit on that one. I kind of want a little bit more though. And then those fresh berries. I'm gonna do a few of the blackberries on this one, and we'll use some more of them to help top. But yep. You know, I probably could finish it here, but we're gonna just keep going. I'm not trying to use everything, to be honest. I just want it to go to the top of the glass. And even though this isn't like traditional whipped cream where like you could easily put it on the very top, I do think we will be fine to do a little bit more. Okay. Because now, right, layer of cake. Jam. You don't have to do too much on these sides, but yeah, it's all just make it own to your own taste. some of these berries. I think I'll just eat those other blackberries though, because this is a little bit high on the top. Oh, so close. We almost didn't spill any. That's why you use the same side of the bowl when you're pouring. Okay? I actually kind of like how it looks not completely covered. And then we finish off with our little bits of bacon. So we definitely could have used the blackberries on that other one. I just didn't want to get it a little too crazy. They almost look like roasted pecans, you know, instead. But yeah, this is all she does with her little bits of bacon. I am realizing this is going to be a little bit harder to eat, but I don't care. It's going to be so good. Let me go ahead and move some of this out of the way and give you guys a shot of the layers. Check in with you soon. Merry meet again. So here we are. You can kind of see all those layers in there, and it definitely tastes delicious. We've taste tested all of these things, but all of them together taste good too. I did a little on the side taste test because this obviously is going to be so messy, so I couldn't do a taste test without messing up the layers, but we kind of can see things in there. You do kind of lose the what's that thing called, the cake, but that is because it was just a very thin cake. Hers do show having them as thick cuts, but since we had to make our own, this is what we're settling for. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and chow down on this. See you guys in the next one.